Hey there, quick note before we dive in. What you're watching right now is a lesson from one of my courses that I've decided to release completely for free here on YouTube so you don't have to pay a dime. So instead of asking you to buy my course, if you want to show your appreciation, here's a couple of things that you can do. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel. These small actions tell YouTube to share my content with more people, which is a huge help. Also, feel free to check out my recommended equipment links in the description below. If you do purchase equipment from these links, I do get a small commission at no extra cost to you whatsoever. Or if you want to, you can leave me a super thanks or even just hit play on one of my playlists. I know it sounds silly, but if you just hit play on one of my playlists and let it play in the background, even if you're not paying attention, it tells YouTube, hey, people are watching these videos. I'm going to push it out to more people. So even if you just want to do that, I would love it. I would appreciate it so much. And then lastly, if you're looking for more personalized help, I do offer private coaching that you can find in the description of this video. Either way, I really appreciate you, whether you choose to do one of these things or not. Just by simply watching this video, it means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Now, let's get to the lesson. Okay, so how do we edit audio inside Audacity? Well, before we get to editing a file, first things first, how do we add multiple tracks inside Audacity? Because you're going to run into a couple of different scenarios, okay? Really three if you think about it. One scenario where casting or the agent or whoever it is you're dealing with only wants you to do one take. Well, that's a very easy thing. You're just going to record one file, one track. That's it, one take, and you're done. Okay, well, what if they want you to do multiple takes, but sometimes they want you to do 2 or 3 takes on one file? Well, that's easy as well. You're just going to record one track, one file. But what if they want you to do 2 or 3 takes, but they want them all on their own separate tracks, right? Their own individual files. Take one file, take 2 on another file. Well, what do you do? Well, all you need to do is first things first, let's just, here's take 1, hit record. Testing, this is take 1 inside Audacity. Okay, cool. That's take 1. Well, now what do we do? Well, all you have to do is just go up to tracks, add new, mono track. Bam, and there you have another track right there. And then what you would do when you wanted to go record here is you would just mute track 1, because as you're recording, you don't want it playing back track 1 because that's going to trip you up inside your headphones. If you wear headphones, all you're going to hear is track 1 playing back over you trying to record track 2 or take 2. So you go ahead and mute this one, leave this one alone, don't mute or solo or any of it, and then just hit record. Testing 1, 2. This is take 2 inside Audacity. And there you have it. Now you have multiple tracks inside Audacity. Now, one thing that I didn't say inside the exporting part of the course is when you're exporting, all you have to do is highlight this track and export. I'm pretty sure that's all you need to do is just highlight and it will export this. Now, if it doesn't work, I know for sure if you highlight this, just make sure you mute the second track, and when you export this, it will only export track 1, and then same goes for track 2. When you're ready to export track 2, just make sure you highlight track 2, mute track 1, unmute track 2, and now it will export track 2. Okay, so now let's get into editing inside Audacity. All right, so now I have a track that is 2 takes, but it's all on one track. And in a lot of cases, this is what they're going to want, whether it's 2 or 3 takes on one track, but it's just one track. So now how do we go about editing this audio? Now, I'm going to go through all of the little tools and tricks and things that you can use inside Audacity when it comes to editing. And then when I get done with explaining all of those things, I'm going to, from start to finish, edit this track how I would, just to show you here live how I would edit this track. All right, so first things first, how do we actually maneuver inside of Audacity? How do we scroll in and out of our audio and move around? Well, there's a few ways to do it. You could use these plus or minus icons up here to go in and out of your audio, and once you're in, you could use this wheel down here to go left and right, move yourself back and forth. I personally don't like to use that. What I like to do, it's much more efficient, it's much more quick, is to just use the scroll wheel on your mouse. And of course, if you're on a PC, you're going to hold down Control. If you're on a Mac, you're going to hold down Command. And if I hold down Control, because I'm on a PC, all I have to do now is hold the scroll wheel or zoom the scroll wheel on my mouse, and it will go in and out of the audio, as you're seeing right now. Basically, wherever your cursor is where the audio is going to scroll in and out of. So I'm just going to highlight it so it's easier to see. But now watch. it's going to scroll in where my cursor is. So now if I take my cursor all the way down to this side of the audio, it's going to scroll in here. So no matter where your cursor is, that's where it's going to scroll in and out of. That's the fastest way to do it. That's the way I like to do it. It's just much more efficient. But if you're in here and you want to move left and right with this scroll wheel down at the bottom, you absolutely can do that. Okay, so now let's move on to deleting audio or even silencing audio. So let's go to this ridiculously exaggerated breath inside of this audition that I've put in here. And all you have to do, well, let's first talk about highlighting. Okay, so to highlight audio, all you need to do is go take and place your cursor where you want to start highlighting. You're going to left click and hold down, and then you're just going to drag until you're ready, and then you can let go. And that is how you highlight in Audacity. Now let's talk about deleting or adding silence to your audio. Okay, well, what do we do here? All right, well, if this is a breath and we want to get rid of it, we could just easily hit the delete button on our keyboard. But look what it does. It brings the audio close together, and that's totally fine. But let's say you didn't want to do that for some reason. Well, you're going to, now let's talk actually one of the most important things now that we're here. One of the most important things you can do is the undo and redo button. So I've deleted this audio, but let's say I was just going through Audacity. I didn't know what I was doing and I accidentally deleted that audio. Let's say I didn't mean to. Well, all I would have to do on a PC is hold down Control Z, or if you're on a Mac, you're going to hold down Command Z, and boom. It's like your get out of jail free card for when you mess up, make a mistake, you don't know what you've done inside Audacity. It will go back through your history and bring back the last thing that you've done. And you can just keep doing this depending on how many things you've done. Let's say you've done like 5 things in the past minute. Well, if you keep doing Control Z or Command Z, it's going to keep going back through your history and undoing those past 5 things that you've done. So this is a really helpful tip, okay? Now, let's say for whatever reason you actually go, you know what? I liked what I did, what I accidentally did. All you have to do now is hold down Control on a PC and then Command on a Mac and then Y. And it will undo your redo. So anyway, if that's something you wanted to do, you could. But I'm going to Control Z this and bring it back. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. If I hit delete, it'll just take that breath away. But another thing that I could do is I could go up here to this little silence audio selection here, and I could just click that and check this out. It just silences the audio, okay? But one thing you need to be really careful about, you can see my noise floor a little bit there and a little bit there, okay? You want to have a really good noise floor if you're going to silence audio, okay? And this is actually okay. You wouldn't even be able to hear this, so check this out. Enjoy them any type of way, any time of day. That's Breakfast Whenevs. Okay, you would have to have very, very picky ears and have your headphones up really, really loud to pick that up. But this is also an exaggerated example. It's not going to be this exaggerated. This is just for this tutorial. But you want to have a noise floor of negative 60 dB or below, or you just want to make sure that if your noise floor is above negative 60 or below, or if it's, above negative 60 dB, that it's because it's like subharmonic content is really low and stuff. You don't want it to be hiss, because if it is hiss, if it's something very audible like hiss, and you silence audio, it will be so obvious to the listener, because everything up until this silenced audio will sound like shh. And then once it gets to this silenced part right here, it's just going to go to silence. And then once it gets back to here, it's going to go back to the sound. So it'll sound like shh. You know what I mean? So it's going to be very obvious. So again, crucial to have a good noise floor so that it doesn't throw the listener out when they hear something like that. Okay, you don't want them to hear something like that. Okay, so let's bring ourselves to another problem that maybe we could encounter. Let's undo all of this. Let's say that you ended up doing something like this. Now, of course, I'm making this happen for this tutorial, but let's say you ended up doing something like this where these takes are not takes, but these phrases are way too close together. So listen to how this sounds. Enjoy them any type of way, any time of day. That's Breakfast Whenevs. That was a little too abrupt. It was a little too fast going from this phrase to this phrase. So what would we do? Would we have to now just start over and redo the audition? No, we would not. Just zoom in. Click right in between those takes, right in between them. And then you're going to go up here to generate, and then you're going to go down to silence. And then just go ahead and click generate. And of course, that's way too much. That's like an insane amount. But now we can choose how much silence we want to be in between those takes. So I'm just going to say, okay, let's try that. And now let's see what that sounds like.
Any time of day. That's breakfast whenever.
See, now that sounds totally fine. So that's another get you out of jail free card. You know, if you find yourself where you don't have any room to maneuver with takes or with spacing, just add silence. And again, if you have a good noise floor, you're going to be totally fine. If you have a bad noise floor, it's going to be very obvious. So just be really careful, okay? All right, now let me zoom back out here. Now, one thing you could also encounter is, okay, let's say you get out of the booth and you realize, okay, you know, let's say I like takes 1 and 2. I like both of the takes, but I hear take 1 and it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like it fits the specs. It's good for them to hear my range, but it just doesn't sound like it fits the specs they're looking for. And then I hear take 2 right here.
Dunkin' Donuts, unbelievable.
And I'm like, okay, that sounds energetic. And that sounds like, okay, the take they're probably wanting. Well, how do you switch these takes around? How do you get them to go from, you know, I want them to hear my take 2 first and my take 1 second. Well, how do we do this? Well, there's a couple of ways. The easiest way that will probably work for most people, if you're not used to like a multi-track DAW or something like that, is just highlight take 2 from beginning to end. And now just right click and just click cut. And then go to the very beginning of take 1. So I'm going to scroll in here, click right here, and then I'm going to just right click and paste. And now my take 2 is my take 1 and my take 1 is take 2. So that is how you could move takes around. But there is another way, right? So I'm going to undo this. The other way you could do this is you could click right in between where take 1 and 2 are going between each other, and then right click and go to split clip. Bam. I have now made these 2 separate clips, and all I have to do is go to the very top where you see the name of this file, editing week 2 homework. Go to the top. You see where it turned into a hand? Goes from a cursor to a hand. Now, left click, drag this bad boy all the way out here. Do the same thing with this one. We're going to drag this over, and now we're just going to drag this one over that one and put it in the take 1 position, right? Whoops. There we go. Put it in the take 1 position, and then move take 2 into the take 2 position. That's the other way that you can move this around if you're more used to like a multi-track DAW style, you know, the way they do that in a multi-track DAW. So that is the second way to move takes around if you want to. Now I'm going to undo, Control Z all over until I get back to where I was. And now let's talk about something. I don't want you guys to rely on this next tip, but it's good to know it's there just in case you need it. Really, you're going to use like, okay, you see that peak, for example, that's really high. That's way higher than the rest of this audio. But you're really going to take care of that with compression later once we get to the compression section of this course. But just so that you know about this tool, just in case you need it for whatever reason, all you have to do is zoom into this audio that's just way too high. Highlight very carefully from beginning to end of just that. You don't want to highlight too much like that because you're going to ruin your audio doing that. You don't want to highlight this in here. That's, you know, likely your noise floor. You don't want to highlight that and alter it. You just want to alter this peak, right? Just that peak, okay? And I can make it even more. Just right there, just that peak. And then I'm going to go to Effect. I'm going to go to Volume and Compression. I'm going to go to Amplify and check this out. What I'm going to do is turn this down because it's too loud. So I'm going to turn this down by, let's say, amplification. I'm going to turn it down by 4 dB. Let's see what happens. Okay, see, that is much, much better, right? Now that actually fits with the rest of the audio. Now, it actually sounded fine. Let me undo that. Whoops. Okay. I may have added something. Hold on.
That's breakfast whenever.
No, that was good. Okay. This actually sounds fine. Dynamics are normal. We talk with dynamic, you know, we have dynamics in our speech. So listen, this sounds fine.
So you can enjoy them any type of way, any time of day. That's breakfast whenevs.
That doesn't, you know, it doesn't sound like that's breakfast whenevs. It sounds fine. Okay, well, let me go back and do what I did before. Let me turn this down. I just want to show you something you don't want to do. You don't want to go crazy. You don't want to, you know, go way overboard here and turn this down way too low, because now it's going to sound really awkward. Listen to this.
Any type of way, any time of day. That's breakfast whenevs.
It sounded overcompressed. It sounded like I said, That's breakfast when at, so you don't want to go overboard with this. Again, this will be taken care of with compression, but I still wanted to show you this tool. The other way you could do this is, let's say, for example, this was way too low. For whatever reason, let's say this was incredibly low, which I'm going to make it be way too low. Well, you could do the opposite. You could highlight that section and go up to Effect, go to Volume and Compression, go to Amplify, and then you want to make sure that this box is unchecked. Because if this box is checked, that means that you can turn this up to infinity and it will allow your audio to clip, which is obviously not what we want. So let's uncheck this box. And now if our audio is going to clip, look at that. I can't apply that because I've turned off allow clipping. Now, if I turn that on, it will allow me to apply it and it will clip the audio. So let me turn that off and go back to where it will. Okay, now it won't let me. So let me just amplify this by like 9 dB. And there you go. Now that looks more normal and more uniform with the rest of the audio. So that's a little tool that you can use to kind of get you out of jail in a certain instance. But again, don't rely on it. Just use it if ever you're in a pickle and you need to. All right. And then the last thing is, how do we bring audio into Audacity? Well, let me just go ahead and get rid of this audio. First things first, this is the way that I don't personally use because I'm lazy and I do it a quicker way. There's no difference really. They're the same. It's just one way's a little faster. So the first way that I don't really use often is File and then Import Audio. And then you just, choose what you want. Like, okay, where's some audio here? Okay, let's do, home studio demo. I would select that. I could double click it or just click open. And bam, there we go. Now we have my home studio demo. But the other way that I like to do it personally is I will open Audacity and then just minimize it, find the audio that I want to bring in, grab it, highlight it over Audacity until it pops up, and then drop it in. Bam. Super easy. That's the awesome lazy way to do it that I like to do it. Again, no difference. It's just faster in my opinion. Okay, so now let's get to editing this audio from beginning to end. How would I edit this audio? Well, first things first, let's just listen to it from beginning to end. So here we go.
Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches. Freshly made all day, so you can enjoy them any type of way, any time of day. That's breakfast whenevs. America runs on Dunkin'. Jesse, guess what? Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches, freshly made all day, so you can enjoy them any type of way, any time of day. That's breakfast whenevs. America runs on Dunkin'.
Okay, first things first. These things right here, these are called leading lines. Now, if you don't know what these are, one day you're going to be coaching with a coach and they're probably going to bring up leading lines. They may have a different name for it, but all these are leading lines to lead you into your read, right? Okay, so let's just take this one for example right here.
Jesse, guess what? Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable.
This is a friendly conversational, could even be energetic or upbeat style of read. So if I were to just read this spot flat, like if I were to just pick it up and go, Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches, I'm putting nothing on that, right? It's just flat. However, I could pick a friend to talk to. I could pick a friend, and I picked my friend Jesse, and I could try to be a little more conversational or upbeat with him, and I could be like, yo, Jesse, guess what? Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches, it just gets you there. It just takes you there. It just gets you into that spec that they're wanting you to fit. And then if we go to this one,
trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Dunkin' Donuts.
This is more like a matter of fact, I'm a professional, I know my stuff, you should listen to me. All right? So these are just leading lines. Now, I don't keep them in my auditions. I delete them. You might find a coach one day that says, well, here's when you would actually want to keep them in, and just listen to them on that. Because there might be a case where it might be a good reason to keep them in. I don't know. I don't, though. I do not keep them in. I would say in most cases, you don't want to keep them in. They're here to listen to your audition, not to what it took for you to get there. So I'm going to delete them. So when I delete this leading line, one key thing to keep in mind is you want to keep about a second to a second and a half between your takes. Between your takes, but at the beginning of your file and at the end of your file. I found with PCs, for whatever reason, if you don't leave up to a second or a second half of audio at the beginning and end of your file, sometimes when you open it in Windows Media Player to listen to the audio, it will actually, in some cases, cut off the beginning and then also the end of the file if there's not enough time if you didn't leave enough time. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this leading line.
Dunkin'.
And that was enough time. That was good. That was good. And then again, now let me just go through here and continue editing how I would.
Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches. Freshly.
Okay, an over-exaggerated breath, just as something for this tutorial. But what I could do, because I left myself this room between the breath, all I really would have to do is just highlight it and delete it. But that might be a little too much space, so
sandwiches. Freshly made.
I could tighten that up a bit and hit delete.
Sandwiches. Freshly made.
And that's it. Just highlight and hit the delete key on your keyboard. However, let's say this was a really fast breath, okay? In a lot of cases, this is what people do. They'll say a line like, Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches, freshly made, and you hear how I did that really fast breath in and I just keep talking? Well, let's say that's what I did. It would look more like this. It would be a really fast breath.
Of breakfast sandwiches. Freshly made.
Okay, well, there's no room at the beginning and end. So in this case, I would want to silence this audio, and I would go here to here, go up to here, and silence that audio. Okay, well, yet again, another great reason to have a good noise floor, as I was speaking about earlier, because if I don't have a good noise floor, it's going to sound really jarring. Like, as I'm talking in the background, you'll hear shh, and then when it gets to that silence part, it'll go shh, shh, and then come back. You don't want that, but now listen to it.
Selection of breakfast sandwiches. Freshly made.
Sounds fine. I could tighten that up a little bit more.
Of breakfast sandwiches. Freshly made.
Sounds great. Okay, so now let's just keep going.
Of breakfast sandwiches. Freshly made all day, so you can enjoy them any type of way, any time of day. That's breakfast whenevs. America runs on Dunkin'. Jesse, guess what? Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, again, I'm going to take out this leading line. Let's just take that out.
America runs on Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts.
And I want to add that's too quick right there. I mean, that might be okay, but again, just for sake of this tutorial, I need to add some space there. So what do? Well, go to Generate, go to Silence, and then go ahead and click Generate. And wow, way more than enough, right? So I'm just going to highlight what I want, delete it, and now let's try it.
Runs on Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts on.
And then that's pretty much enough time right there. It's about a second, so that's all I needed. So here we go.
America runs on Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts' unbelievable selection of breakfast sandwiches, freshly made all day, so you can enjoy them any type of way, any time of day.
And again, because I gave myself room, I'm just going to hit delete, and now let's try it.
Any type of way, any time of day. That's breakfast whenevs. America runs on Dunkin'.
Perfect. Okay, as you can see, editing really isn't that difficult. It may seem like it at first, and you're going to be a little slow in the beginning. You're going to be like, oh yeah, where's that tool? What button do I hit now? How do I scroll in? It's going to be slow going. It's going to take you a little while, but practice, practice, practice. The more you do this, the more time you spend editing, the faster and faster you're going to be. And eventually in a month, you're going to be blowing through auditions like it's nothing. So that's how you edit audio inside Audacity.